tonight. He's accused of being a serial predator, and now two of his alleged victims say police failed to protect them. We'll take you inside that CBC investigation, and that's not all.
Quebec needs to show us the money. It's been too long with no money.
Well, that may be about to change. A tentative new deal for Churchill Falls. It could come as soon as tomorrow.
I'm Daryl in Labrador City, and I'll be showing you the first store of its kind in the province where you use an app to get inside. That's coming up.
This is the 21st year the Collision Clinic has gifted a fully rebuilt car to a family who needs it most.
It's just an incredible feeling to see that this family's lives really are changed because of this vehicle.
I can't explain it right now. I'm overwhelmed. Very overwhelmed.
We'll meet this year's lucky recipient coming up.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. It's been a source of frustration in this province for decades, and now there are big signals that the lopsided Churchill Falls agreement with Quebec may soon be replaced with a new deal. Here and Now's Terry Roberts has our top story about an agreement that could bring much-needed revenue to Newfoundland and Labrador.
It's happening. Quebec Premier François Legault, Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Furey, other top officials from both governments are coming together here in St. John's for an announcement that has the potential to kickstart something transformational for this province. Legault confirmed it this morning as he passed by reporters in Quebec City. He's coming to St. John's. A media advisory from Andrew Furey's office describes it as a historic partnership announcement. And it's happening 2 o'clock tomorrow at the Rooms, this province's cultural epicenter. All this followed a report on Tuesday evening by CBC Radio Canada that a deal is close on a renewed contract for the Churchill Falls hydro plant and the massive amount of electricity, more than 34 terawatt hours annually it produces. There are few details, but plenty of questions about how a new deal will remedy decades of resentment, unsuccessful court challenges, and a scenario that allows Hydro-Quebec to receive practically free power from Labrador and sell it on the open market for a huge markup. The original agreement with Hydro-Quebec was signed 55 years ago and is good for another 17 years. Quebec has pocketed nearly $28 billion in profits, and Al Hydro about $2 billion. And those numbers are 5 years old.
Of course, we are very interested to renegotiate as soon as possible.
We're not on bended knee to Quebec. Quebec is coming to us.
But the landscape is shifting, and there's growing demand for non-polluting hydropower. Quebec wants to sign long-term power purchase agreements. It cannot risk losing access to all the electricity in Labrador, about 15% of Quebec's total capacity. And it's not as easy as simply building new generation. So Legault has talked about expanding the capacity at Churchill Falls, and maybe even developing the Gull Island project further downstream. And last year, he did something no other Quebec politician has ever done, admitted the current situation is unfair.
I think that this contract became a bad deal for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Both sides have been in talks, with Andrew Furey saying he will only sign a deal that's good for this province.
Quebec needs to show us the money. It's been too long with no money. Newfoundland and Labrador is in a strong position for the first time, probably since 1969.
Hydro-Quebec pays 0.02 cents per kilowatt hour for Churchill Falls power, far below the market rate. Now, this new agreement will see an increase in that purchase price. But how much? For how long? And what will it mean for a province struggling with the highest debt per capita in the country? This politician is worried a deal is being rushed for political gain. Legault's popularity in Quebec is waning, and Andrew Furey has to call an election within the next 10 months.
Is it simply about the next election? Because as I said, this is too important. This needs to be about the next generation. And why now? You know, we have time, it's on our side. Quebec, we are in their driver's seat. So I want to make sure there are a lot of people out there who will want to have an opportunity to express an opinion or to weigh in on this.
The PCs and the NDP want any agreement to be debated in the House of Assembly. Tony Wakeham is demanding an emergency session in January. Andrew Furey is not talking ahead of the announcement. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, two alleged victims of Tony Humby are shedding new light on a prior interaction with police. CBC Investigates has reported on a 2007 traffic stop in which Humby was found with three youths in his car. As the CBC's Ryan Cook reports, two of those teens are now telling their story.
3 a.m., October 11th, 2007. Police pull over a car on the winding road to Cape Spear. Inside, a 47-year-old man with three teenagers, two 16, one 13. They had been drinking. The driver, Tony Humby, a man now accused of dozens of sexual offenses involving 11 youths. That traffic stop happened here on Blackhead Road, and we've reported on it several times now, as it was one of 10 investigations referenced in the untested documents police used to get search warrants in this case. But now two of the three teens in the car that night are speaking out. We can't show you their faces or use their voices because of publication bans, but these are their words.
Tony picked me and two of my friends up on Southside Road. He drove us up to Shea Heights. We drank beer and smoked marijuana. When we were about to leave Shea Heights to drive to Tony's house, the police pulled us over.
He said to say that we were family.
I do not believe they gave him a breathalyzer, but I am not certain.
No, I would never forget that. He was under the influence.
Looking back now, I believe the police should have taken steps to investigate why Tony was with three young teens in a vehicle in the middle of the night.
The 13-year-old was questioned by police days later. He said nothing happened. Humby refused to cooperate. What the teens didn't know then was that the RNC already knew Tony Humby. Less than a month earlier, another 16-year-old said he went to Humby's trailer on Hussey Drive, where a consensual encounter turned violent. He alleged Humby raped him as he faded in and out of consciousness. That 16-year-old went to hospital, where a rape kit was collected. He then gave a statement to the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. Humby was questioned at RNC headquarters and denied the allegations. He was told no charges would be laid. The passengers in Humby's car didn't know any of that.
I only learned in recent months that 3 weeks prior to the incident, Tony had been interviewed by police after being accused of raping a 16-year-old boy. I do not understand why the police appear to have taken no steps to investigate Tony that night.
Police arrested Tony Humby and his neighbor Bruce Escott last year. Together, they faced dozens of charges, including sexual assault, sexual interference, forcible confinement, and more. Escott pleaded guilty late last month to 7 charges and will be sentenced in early 2025. Humby, facing 72 charges, has pleaded not guilty and is taking his case to trial in March. Those 2007 incidents are now a key part of the case against Tony Humby. Police went back to the rape complainant and laid a charge of sexual assault years after he first came forward. Humby is also charged with sexually assaulting the 13-year-old who was in the car that night. Now in his early 30s, the man says he plans to sue the RNC, saying they could have done more to prevent the alleged abuse from happening. The RNC is not commenting on this story, citing ongoing civil and criminal cases. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
We're going to take you now to Labrador. You can now shop around the clock in Labrador City. A new store named Aisle 24 opened this weekend, and as Here and Now's Daryl Din reports, it's the first of its kind in the province.
Check it out, a self-operating store. Aisle 24 is open 24/7, but isn't always staffed. When cashiers clock out, customers can unlock the door with an app and keep shopping.
You may now enter.
So we approach Aisle 24. Normally they work in a fully autonomous 24-hour technology-based. That approach is really great, but we wanted to elaborate a little bit more. and offer the flexibility of a hybrid where daytime you can have cashiers, people can access the store without technology, and then once the store closes for the day shift, they can still access the store 24 hours around the clock using the technology piece.
Cashiers are on hand from 12 until 8 p.m. After that, you'll need the app. The app requires you to upload a photo of your face and a valid credit card. Colburn says he's keeping a cashier in the daytime for people who don't want to do that or aren't as tech savvy.
It's more inclusive than exclusive, and I think that having that hybrid approach of having the cashiers, and there's also a very personable touch.
People checking out the store for the first time were excited, especially those looking for late night snacks.
Yes, definitely. I find that it's like at 10 p.m. I either forgotten to eat and I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do for food? So something for 24 hours is going to be great.
The app unlocks around the clock, access to food and baby formula.
Yes, I think it's great because if we run out after hours, we have somewhere to go. So yeah, perfect.
And have you downloaded the app? Are you ready to go?
Yes, yeah, we got the app, we're ready.
Very easy, very user-friendly, very excited.
Now, do you have anyone in your life that'll probably just stick to the 12 to 8, the non-app life?
Yes, I would say probably my nan, who's not super into technology, but it's still great.
Yeah. My fiance absolutely will not be able to do this independently.
How old is he?
27.
Okay, good to know. You realize people struggle at all ages with the apps. But you might be thinking lack of cashiers will be ripe for shoplifting. Every aisle has a camera and is monitored 24/7. Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
Well, the Collision Clinic has been doing its annual holiday giveaway for 21 years now, and this season demand for the prize was through the roof. Here now's Jessica Singer has more.
Marsha Murley has 3 young children, works 2 jobs, and soon she'll be hitting the road in her new car.
I really can't. I can't explain it right now. I'm overwhelmed. Very overwhelmed. Yeah.
Murley received a fully rebuilt vehicle from the Collision Clinic as part of its annual Enriching Lives program. For more than 2 decades, the company has found a family in need and hands over the keys to the ultimate Christmas gift.
It's going to change our life. I mean, we have something now to drive around and go visit their dad, get back and forth to school, all the activities that the girls are in. It's a life changer.
The car comes with spare tires, is covered by insurance for a year, and there's even something for the kids. But making the call, picking who gets this car, is bittersweet. Darren Martin was part of the selection process. Compared to last year, he says the number of nominees was up 300%.
It's heartwarming and it's also heartbreaking when you read 53 stories as to how a car can change somebody's life.
Martin says Murley is a worthy winner, working 2 jobs without ever having access to a vehicle. So while it may be difficult to choose one family, seeing this reaction makes it all worth it.
We say as judges it's part of our Christmas gift to ourselves in that we get to experience the pleasure that the families get every year, and it's just an incredible feeling to see that this family's lives really are changed because of this vehicle.
And while they won't be behind the wheel anytime soon, Murley's children are equally ecstatic.
This is Natalie reporting my new car.
Finally, able to drive to school and work, to visit loved ones, it's a generous gesture that will help this family go the extra mile. Jessica Singer, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a great day for sure. Temperatures warming up. Our daytime highs so far now, well, at least on the south coast, starting to warm up quite nicely. 6 to 8 degrees rather. Up across Labrador, still hanging on to those cool temperatures. But take a look at these numbers. This is the unseasonably warm temperatures that are going to move in tomorrow. This is compared to what you would typically see. Labrador City, minus 13 is where you're normally sitting, and tomorrow you're going to be sitting around 10 degrees. That could break your temperature record for the day by quite a bit. From 1969, 2.2 was the record. Really, a couple of areas are going to see some record-breaking temperatures tomorrow as well. I'll break it all down for you coming up.
So here's what we've gathered from talking to local residents.
I spoke with a renter who's facing eviction this fall.
It is not for the weak of stomachs.
What does it mean for you to be able to give that advice and to know that you've helped? Don't look down.
If this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
St. John's.
Corner Brook.
Shaji, Inuk First Nation.
Grand Falls, Windsor.
New West Valley, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Let's take a look at this. A dramatic morning fire in St. John's. This video was taken shortly after 9 o'clock. Crews shut down the eastbound lane on Kenmount Road near Donovan's Industrial Park due to this truck fire. Police say they arrived to find the fire crews already on the scene. No word on what caused that fire or if anyone was injured. Parks Canada has parked its plans to hold meetings in communities along the south coast of the island. Those meetings were meant to discuss the possibility of a marine conservation area, which would stretch from the communities of McCallum to Lapoille. The consultations are now being rescheduled for the new year.
We're currently working and talking on a regular basis with the aquaculture industry to try and answer all of their questions and their concerns, and to take that into consideration, because we understand that the aquaculture industry is very important in southern Newfoundland. We're looking at a way forward to see if there's a manner that we can coexist together and continue to work with the conservation and also having the Parks Canada tourism factor in the Bergier-Ramnia area.
Well, a volleyball team from Nain recently took third place at a tournament here on the Avalon, and the tiny team of 8 was thrilled because they made history. The CBC's Heidi Adder explains.
It was a celebration in St. John's. The Nain teenagers won third, but the pride from the stands made it feel like first. Jenshaven Memorial School was one of 13 schools at last weekend's tournament. However, they were the smallest team.
It was intense. All the games were close. We played 7 games and 5 games went third set.
This was the best provincials we've ever been to, and I loved every game.
Volleyball provincially is broken into divisions based on school population to have tournaments be fair. Smallest schools play in A, slightly larger in AA, until the largest schools play in 4A. School Sports Newfoundland and Labrador says Nain is the first AA Labrador school to play against the largest schools in the province. Parents and basically the entire community watched from afar, with Inuit from Nain now living in St. John's, live streaming the games so everyone in Nain could watch.
It's just because we're small doesn't mean we're not mighty. Like these boys have always been true champions. Like even if they didn't place first, like they show true pride and all their heart. They put everything into every game they play.
With their small but mighty team of 8, the boys won the Best Sportsmanship Award. Barber hopes the whole experience is something they can remember for years to come.
I hope it opens their minds to realize that they can go that far too. Like if some of them are finishing school this year and maybe they want to go and further their education to places like cities like St. John's or even further, like I hope they realize that it's not too big for them. They can go.
We have the heart for it.
We got the passion for it.
We may not have the height, but we have the heart.
Yeah.
Heidi Adder, CBC News, Happy Valley, and Goose Bay.
I promote it as like a bit of a different learning environment.
It's a good topic to start a conversation with, and you make a lot of friends.
Well, band practice is the place to be at this Lewisport school, thanks to a dedicated teacher who has managed to get more than 100 students at the high school into music. All right, it's weather time. And Ashley, there's a warm up coming. And you mentioned earlier that Labrador could even break some records.
Yeah, if you missed it a little earlier, I'll show you a couple of areas that are likely to reach their new record potential. Here's a look at them. So Lab West, 10 degrees forecast for tomorrow. Your previous record is 2.2 back in 1969. Happy Valley Goose Bay, you could potentially break that record by about 3 degrees. Nain as well, breaking a record. Cartwright, it's going to be close. We'll have to see what happens there. In St. John's, it doesn't look like we'll get anywhere close to what the previous record was, which was 16.8 degrees in 2008. And Gander, you're going to be pretty close as well. So definitely going to keep an eye on that. The reason for it is an area of low pressure that is already starting to bring some messy weather to parts of Atlantic Canada. And we saw some freezing rain a little earlier today across parts of the island. Temperatures have now warmed up, but we're still going to have that cold air up across Labrador. And once this heads further north, this front, we're going to see that freezing rain head towards Labrador as well. So for now, you're still sitting below zero, and temperatures across the island are starting to warm up, 6 to 8 degrees for the south, and they're going to continue to warm up as we head through the overnight tonight, as we see some of those showers now working their way further north, changing most of the precipitation over to rain for now, and snow still happening up across Labrador. But there is a lot more where that came from, and will continue to move in as we head through tonight. Environment Canada has a freezing rain warning in place from Lab City all the way through to Rigolette and down south towards the Strait. And we can expect somewhere between 2 to 5, maybe 5 to 10 pockets of some freezing rain potential through the overnight, and then into tomorrow morning. That'll push a little bit further north, affecting Nain into the afternoon on Thursday. Let's time it out. So over the next couple of hours, we'll start to see maybe potentially some ice pellets first, then freezing rain for Happy Valley Goose Bay through to the coast. This should all be rain across the island. Lab West still going to hang on to the potential for some snow. Eventually through the overnight, you'll see that freezing rain, and that will quickly change over to rain as temperatures climb into tomorrow morning. And then some periods of rain will move in as well. Things are going to get a little bit slushy, that's for sure. So you could pick up another 2 to 5 centimeters of snow before we see that change over. Areas close to the north coast, rather, could see a little bit more than that. And temperatures tonight are going to continue to warm up, as I mentioned. So overnight lows between 7 and about 9 degrees. Northern Peninsula, it's going to take a little longer for you to see that warm up, but you will. And then Labrador as well. These are your temperatures for now, but come morning, they're going to continue to rise. Around 2 degrees will be the temperature you'll sit around for Cartwright tonight. Into tomorrow, basically everything is going to change over to rain up across Labrador. Some of those periods of rain will head towards the west coast of the island by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon. Also going to bring some rainy conditions, but some of this rain could be fairly heavy at times, especially as we head into the evening hours along the south coast, parts of central as well. And eventually this will work its way towards the eastern portion of the island. In behind this, much colder air up across Labrador. So although you're going to start warm, temperatures are going to plummet tomorrow evening, starting in the afternoon actually for Lab West. So all of that slushy mess will turn into an icy mess through the afternoon and evening hours. And that will continue to work its way across Labrador as we head into Friday morning. And we'll see that colder air, not quite as dramatic of a drop, but that colder air across the island as well. Also going to be very windy tomorrow for the Wreckhouse area, about 110 kilometers per hour. And then winds across the island, even up across parts of Labrador into tomorrow afternoon, will be gusting between 60 to 80 kilometers per hour. West coast, you may see a few gusts a little higher than that. But those winds will quickly ease as we head into early Friday morning. Rainfall amounts somewhere between the heaviest will be along the south coast, 30 to 50, maybe even 60 or 70 millimeters, certainly possible in pockets. Otherwise, just a little bit further north of that, we may see between 10 to 20, but other than that, not a whole lot of rain to speak about. But here's your temperatures tomorrow. 12 10 to 12 or even 13 degrees, again with those winds. Northern Peninsula will hang out in the single digits through the day. But here's your temperatures tomorrow across Labrador as well. Like I said, 10 degrees in Lab City, but tomorrow afternoon, temperatures will drop to -8 very quickly, and then into the minus double digits as we head towards the overnight period. So keep that in mind. I'll have a long-range forecast coming up a little later.
Well, school bands across the province are busy getting ready for their Christmas concerts this month. And at Lewisport Collegiate, it's tricky to get all the bandmates together. And that's because it's almost half the school. We drop by rehearsal to find out why it's so popular.
I'm split as a halftime teacher here and also at Lewisport Intermediate, which is just down the road. Well, I think the big thing is that when I get them in grade 7, I would say like, you know, we're building a culture here. And the number one thing is that like, you know, it's kind of expected that if you can handle it, we're gonna get you to take music from grade 7 to grade 12. We'll make it work just to give you that opportunity. And I promote it as like a bit of a different learning environment, that it's not like we're not sitting and doing anything with books, or we're not writing tests, we're not doing anything crazy. We just come together, we play music. I do have high expectations for them, but I also try and make it as wacky, weird, and fun as possible.
Grade 6 to grade 7, we got to choose our instruments, and you know, I chose the drums, percussion, and that was mostly because I didn't want to learn all the notes and stuff for the trumpets or anything like that, but ever since then, really enjoyed it. Being part of a big band like that, well, you gotta learn coordination and teamworking, and if someone's lacking behind and in a certain part, well, you could go back and help them. Every instrument plays a different piece for it to all come together to form a big song or symphony or, you know, orchestra, right?
Well, it gives me a little bit more of a personality. Like it's a good topic to start a conversation with, and you make a lot of friends being a music kid. I've known people from other parts of the world that I have been able to really communicate with and have that good relationship with them because of music. Mr. Baxter is one of the best role models for all of the students here in Lewisport Collegiate.
If you rush into an election before that work is done, you put the whole thing at risk, because who knows what Tony Wakeham is going to want to do, you know, the PC leader, the main competitor, you know, in the next election for Andrew Furey. Like, where does that go?
Well, stay with us. Power and Politics host David Cochran will be here weighing in on what could be a historic announcement tomorrow about the Churchill Falls contract and what it could mean ahead of a provincial election. Well, now back to our top story. Tomorrow, the provincial government and Quebec will announce details of what they're calling a historic partnership agreement, a renegotiation of the Churchill Falls contract set to expire in 2041. And joining me now is someone who would love to be home in St. John's for tomorrow afternoon's announcement. Power and Politics host David Cochran is in Ottawa. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's good to be here.
So, David, you've been covering stories about this lopsided contract for your entire career. What do we know about this deal so far?
Well, look, the finer points are really going to be what tells the story. But broadly, what we know is it's an agreement in two parts. The first is a renegotiation of what's left of the Upper Churchill power contract that runs from now until 2041, and an extension beyond that for an unspecified period of time. The idea, as I understand it, is a much higher price for the Upper Churchill power than the 0.2 cents per kilowatt hour that Quebec pays right now in the period of time until the expiration in 2041, and then more market-based pricing with escalators beyond that. But again, the actual numbers and details are going to tell us the full story when we get those tomorrow. The second part of it is an agreement to work together on possible future energy developments in Labrador. And right off the top, you think about Gull Island, right? Because there have been various attempts to contemplate doing that third major hydro project on the Churchill River. For various reasons, it hasn't gone ahead. But it is one of the few remaining big hydro projects in North America that can be developed and used for commercial and industrial and residential purposes. And Newfoundland and Labrador has the asset. Quebec has the expertise, the money, and the transmission to work on it. So that will be part of that second phase. So they're linked, but not dependent on each other, as I understand it. Whether or not Muskrat Falls goes ahead doesn't seem to preclude what's going to happen with the, not Muskrat Falls, Gull Island. It doesn't seem to preclude what's going to happen with the Churchill Falls contract, and that there will be a higher price paid between now and 2041 by Quebec, and then a new agreement for, to me, unknown set of time beyond that to extend that contract out beyond the 2041 expiration date.
And the Churchill Falls contract has been such a sore spot in this province. You know, $28 billion in profits going to Quebec, while this province has gotten $2 billion. If that financial imbalance is fixed in this new deal, what could that mean for this province's fiscal future?
It's going to depend on what the new number is. But, you know, I go back to what Francois Legault said when he was in St. John's in February of 2023, when he acknowledged in English, just outside the legislature, that this was a bad deal for Newfoundland and Labrador. And he made the point, you're not going to fix it historically going backwards, but from a certain point going forward, you can make this a more equitable deal. So that suggests that Quebec is willing to put some real cash on the table, at least in this period of time until 2041. So the price point is 0.2 cents a kilowatt hour right now. You get that up to 1 cent, 2 cents, 3 cents, 10 cents, who knows what the range is, but the multiplier factor on that is enormous. That if it gets to a certain point, I mean, Carolyn, I think you ran a deficit of about $211 million last year in a $10 billion budget. You could get the kind of consistent, stable, long-term revenue from this that you don't have deficits anymore. You know, it depends on what the number comes in at, but, you know, $500 million, for example, $500 million a year, if it gets that high, or $250 million, that's a balanced budget. If every bit that goes up beyond that is money for economic and social development, it's for debt reduction, it's for savings to put aside, and unlike the windfalls that we've seen there in the past from oil money, this is renewable, this is forever, and should get more lucrative come 2041 when the new contract kicks in. So there's a lot of unknowns. And you know, you and I have covered this story our whole career, and there's never really been a happy ending, Carolyn, but there's the potential for a happy ending tomorrow. It's just going to depend on what those numbers are and what Andrew Furey and his government decide to do with that money. You know, do they come up with a strict plan for the money to do basic restructuring and province-altering things? That's going to be the test of whether or not this is successful, just how big it is and what the plan is to use it.
And the scrutiny, I'm sure, is going to be very intense. There is a lot of pressure to make sure that this is a good deal for this province. And what could this mean for the Liberals politically? Could it mean we could see an election sooner rather than later?
Well, that's going to be a question I'm sure Andrew Furey is going to get asked tomorrow. I mean, look, you have a fixed election date of October of 2025. This is a memorandum of understanding or a series of MOUs that are going to be signed tomorrow. So the final binding commercial agreements still have to come. So if you rush into an election before that work is done, you put the whole thing at risk, because who knows what Tony Wakeham is going to want to do, you know, the PC leader, the main competitor, you know, in the next election for Andrew Furey. Like, where does that go? So they've got to be careful not to rush it, because you want to make sure this is locked down. And too often in the past, you've seen these big deals used in provincial elections as a reason to go early, and it looks cynical and it looks tainted. If this lives up to the expectations, it's going to be something you really want to get signed, finalized, and done as close as you can up to that fixed election day, because you have no choice but to go in October. There's some pressure too on the Quebec side of this, Carolyn. I mean, they are renegotiating an unbalanced deal that's in their favor, because they want the extension beyond 2041, because those 5,000 megawatts of power that come from that plant, so important for their industrial, economic, and financial development in their province. They want to sign long-term contracts, you know, to do things like electric vehicle battery plants, fund artificial intelligence hubs, and just do long-term power purchasing agreements as everybody tries to rush to a net zero economy. But right now, Francois Legault is in trouble in Quebec. The Parti Québécois, the separatists, are leading in the public opinion polls. So you don't necessarily want to do anything that makes your partner's political situation less tenable, because a PQ government might also have a very different view on how to proceed with this. So if this is what they hope it is, they want to get it done, they want to get it locked down, and they're probably going to want to get it finalized and sanctioned before exposing it to the political risk of an election. Because let's face it, Carolyn, incumbents have not had a good run in this country when it comes to going to the polls.
That is for sure. So much to look out for here, David. Always great to have you back on the show, and really appreciate your analysis on this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Carolyn. Have fun tomorrow.
And staying with this story, the Upper Churchill has been a contentious subject for decades. In this report from 1980, the province is playing hardball, resorting to threats to reach a better deal.
Quebec has been refusing to discuss a new price for the power from the Upper Churchill, and as a result, Newfoundland claims to be losing hundreds of millions of dollars annually. The Newfoundland government has been under a lot of public pressure to pull the switch, cut off the power, and force Quebec to renegotiate. Rather than pull the switch, the Newfoundland government may be about to turn off the tap. Since the water rights were granted by the legislature, theoretically the legislature can take them away. Premier Peckford talks of an exhaustive legal study into the matter, but he won't go as far as his energy minister.
Well, I think Mr. Barry was just expressing certain views that he has on it. I hadn't gone over with Mr. Barry what he was going to say in Montreal. The position of the government and of me is simply that we are examining the report of the task force on the Upper Churchill and other initiatives that we might take as it relates to hydro development. And we have come to no firm decisions on which way we are to proceed as of this moment.
That's about the third time that Barry's gone to Montreal with a threat, and the Premier has made a non-committal comment after. In some ways, it almost seems like a variation on the old police trick of good cop, bad cop. The bad cop goes in first to shake the victim up, and then when the good guy comes in, he's so moderate that the victim is much more cooperative. The only thing wrong with that suggestion is that the moderate guy would have to be Brian Peckford in this case, and that doesn't quite jive with his public image. Rick Seward, CBC News, St. John's.
The Bank of Canada has made another big cut to its key interest rate. It's the fifth consecutive one since June, but it comes with a warning of uncertain times ahead. Peter Armstrong explains.
The Bank of Canada is trying to thread a particularly slim needle. It wants to get rates lower, but it doesn't want markets to freak out. So once again, it cut 50 basis points, but it added this caveat.
With the policy rate now substantially lower, we anticipate a more gradual approach to monetary policy.
The question is, what does gradual really mean?
Well, we've just cut by 50 basis points at the last two meetings. So more gradual is more gradual than that.
Tiff Macklem's answer is deliberately vague because he sees what you see. Per capita GDP has fallen 6 straight quarters. The unemployment rate is rising. Economists say gradual doesn't mean the rate-cutting cycle has come to an end.
Canadians are going to see even more rate cuts ahead.
Canadians have been clobbered recently. Inflation drove up prices. A slowing economy is eating into economic confidence. So even if those 50 basis point cuts are behind us, economists believe rates need to come down to help navigate the stormy months and years ahead.
RBC sees the Bank of Canada cutting rates down to 2% by the end of next year, believing that the economy is going to need more than just neutral, but a little extra support over that horizon.
That's welcome news to variable rate mortgage holders.
It probably dropped by about $250, $300 a month, so it's definitely a relief there.
Roman Oshipkov saw his mortgage in Red Deer nearly double when rates took off. That extra money helps, but costs are up across the board.
Fuel costs are up. Costs to food for kids and formula and diapers and all that stuff is up. So it's really not that you can buy extra stuff.
And now the economy is facing new threats from incoming U.S. President Donald Trump and his proposed tariffs. And we still don't know what will be targeted, by how much, or how Canada may respond.
So it is not just a cloud of uncertainty, but a very pernicious fog over the entire visibility of the Canadian economy.
The Bank of Canada meets again on January 29th, just a week after the new U.S. president takes office. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, the two sides in the Canada Post strike appear further apart than ever. The company released a statement today saying the union's latest offer, quote, would add billions of dollars in unsustainable fixed costs. And stuck in the middle are the many people anxiously awaiting essential documents, including social services checks and passports. Alexander Silberman reports.
My package was delivered to this very postal location.
Yi Ching Huang tracked her passport to this shuttered Toronto post office. It's stuck inside with no way to get it, and a trip for her wedding reception is just weeks away.
Yeah, it's devastating at this point.
Huang is a permanent resident with a Chinese passport that contains visas that are challenging to replace. And there's no resolution in sight after the latest proposal by the union, delivered Monday, was described as a setback by Canada Post.
I feel sorry for the workers. They have to go on strike at this point of year, but then it's also very frustrating for people like us waiting for important documents.
While Huang is currently out of luck, there are some options for Canadian passport holders. Service Canada has held about 185,000 passports since December 1st. They're available for pickup for an extra $20. But it's not just passports.
We think that all options should be in place.
While some federal benefits, including the Canada Pension Plan, are still being delivered, most provincial program checks need to be picked up. That's troubling to this advocate.
Certainly for people who have mobility issues or distance issues, it becomes a real barrier to getting what are absolutely necessary benefits for survival purposes.
Canada Post says mail stuck at distribution centers like this one will be delivered on a first-in, first-out basis when operations resume. But it adds Canadians will continue to feel the impact of the strike long after it's over. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
Okay, so time for a look at the long-range forecast. We have the warm-up that's coming tomorrow. So that's not going to last long. That's here and gone.
It is here and gone for sure. Temperature's really going to plummet, though, as we head through Thursday night. Let's take a look at what's going on. So area of low pressure that's what's bringing all of this warm air, but there's a cold front associated with it. Once that moves through, temperatures are going to drop. Up across Labrador, you're talking about temperatures back down to the minus teens. Across the island, temperatures will drop as well. Not quite as dramatic, but we're still looking at temperatures dropping near or just a few degrees below zero as we head through the first part of Friday. And then we start to get into the potential for some snow squalls again. That machine will kick right back up as we head into the afternoon and evening hours on Friday. So any snow that you did lose, you may get some of it back on the west coast for all you snow lovers. Up across Labrador, again, that colder air going to bring some snow to parts of Labrador again, Lab West anyway. And overall, daytime highs will sit in the minus single digits, anywhere from about -1 to -7 across the island, or across Labrador rather. Along the strait, a little bit warmer, and even more so across the island. So between 1 and 6 degrees. It's going to take a little longer to see those temperatures drop further east, where daytime highs will sit around 6 degrees. And again, the chance of a few showers for the first part of the day for central and eastern portions of the province. But other than that, we actually may see some sunshine as well. It looks like a fairly decent day. So Friday evening, the better chance, I should say, of seeing the squalls will be for Saturday for the west coast. And we could see some squalls develop again along southern areas of the island and potentially again reaching the Avalon at times through the day on Saturday. It'll be very much like last Saturday, where we'll see some sunshine in the mix if you're not in a squall. Otherwise, you'll see the chance of some flurries in there as well. And then up across Labrador, temperatures still looking at the potential for some flurries, but temperatures will stay below zero, -2 to -8. And then hovering near or a few degrees below zero again across the island for your Saturday. After that, as we get into Sunday, temperatures will dip a little bit more, so minus single digits. And some cloudy periods. The next couple of days actually look pretty decent. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I should say, with temperatures hovering anywhere from around 2 degrees or a little bit below. Then for Central, you're looking at a nice stretch of weather as we get into the end of the weekend and beginning of next week as well. Same thing for Western Newfoundland. And then up across Labrador, temperatures are going to stay in the minus single digits for Eastern Labrador. So that's well above where you should be sitting this time of year, as we showed you a little earlier. And same thing for Lab West. Getting pretty nice there, though. By Saturday, a few flurries to start, but the weekend looks decent. And Monday, you'll be hovering around -6. Our weather photo of the day is in St. John's. This is actually a thin layer of ice.
Aww.
You can see that there on Dead Man's Pond. That is, again, isn't going to last long. But Len captured the shot. If you have any weather photos, you can send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Yeah, it won't be long now before people are up there doing the plunges.
Cold plunge.
Is that Dead Man's Pond? That's where they do that,
so.
right? Or is it
Yep.
George's Pond across the way?
Oh, maybe it is George's.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Oh, my.
No, thank
Won't
you.
be me.
No.
But people love it.
They do love it. It's true. It's true. It's a thing.
It is a thing. All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.